converted man here. Okay, Our Lady of Guadalupe is for gullibles. So, here we go. On December 9th, 1531, supposedly a woman appeared to Saint Juan Diego in the form of an Aztec princess. Well, he was on the way to mass. That's nice. I'm going to skip past, like, all the rest of this because it's just a story as far as I can tell. I mean, there's nothing to corroborate the story. It's just some guy said that he saw some stuff. But then there's this cloak, and it's supposedly got some miraculous qualities. And I'm not impressed by anything that I'm reading on the page so far. So yeah, it's here's the part I wanted to get to about this particular supposed miraculous thing, this image that supposedly never fades, and I guess they never touch it up or anything. That's one part. But the image appears to be indestructible. In 1785, supposedly, a worker who was cleaning the encasement of the image accidentally spilled a solution of 50% nitric acid solvent on a large portion of the image. The image and the tilma should have been eaten away, yet they were unscathed. Okay, well, do we have an actual recording that event actually happened? Do we have any documentation that it actually happened? Or is this just another story? I think it's just another story. And in 1921, an anti-civical activist planted a bomb with 29 sticks of dynamite in a pot of roses near to the tilma. When it exploded, the blast was so intense that windows 150 feet away blew out, and a hefty brass crucifix twisted and bent back, but the tilma remained unscathed. So, okay. Well, you told us how far away the windows were. You said the pot of roses was near it. Well, what's that mean? What do you mean by near? Like, how near is near? How about a distance? Do we have a record of this going off? At least we have how many sticks of dynamite so we can figure out the radius of the explosion. But do we have a map of the area and know where the potted plant was? No, of course not. So here's another story. The interesting thing about both of those things is we have a potential for a verification of a claim here. So if the claim is it's indestructible, then, well, do this again. Splash some acid on it. How about more powerful acid this time? Or set off a bomb right next to the dang thing. Or take a jackhammer to it. Or a flamethrower. Or, let's take a chisel and chip away at, like, the toe of it or something. But, no, we're not going to do any of that. So two things might have possibly happened that we have absolutely no record for, that somebody said happened, and wow, that's miraculous. Yeah, right. Everything else on this page about these miracles of Mary are completely and utterly unremarkable in every sense of the word. There's nothing here that cannot be explained by somebody just making up a story. None of these things are corroborated. None of these things have actually been tested or demonstrated to be anything more than natural phenomenon at work. Supposedly, somebody looked into the eye at a certain magnification on this particular image and saw interesting things there. Okay, they could have painted really small, but that would be interesting. How about a photo of that? No, okay, we're not going to get any sort of photographic evidence that when you examine this thing really close up, that you see what the guy said he saw. Because that would be verification. That would be actual scrutiny of these things. How does the Catholic Church determine when something is a miracle or not? And it seems like they have kind of a system where if somebody prays to a saint and then like the prayers answered in a certain way, like multiple times by enough people, and they get enough reports, like then they'll say, yeah, that person's a saint now or something like that. And the rest of them are just like, if there's enough stories told that people will believe that these are miracles. But what's the methodology for deducing if this is a miracle in the first place? Let's just say that this statue image thing, whatever the bleep, let's say it was indestructible. Well, that's pretty amazing, but is that miraculous? I mean, is it inconceivable that we could build something that withstood a lot of destructive force? I don't think it's that inconceivable. I mean, we could make something potentially acid proof and maybe even blast proof, if not blast resistant. Maybe eventually you would get some dent at it if you went at it long enough time. But again, the lack of any actual testing and the lack of actual documentations is underwhelming. It's not surprising. On the flip side of that, if they really thought they had a legitimate miracle, why wouldn't they welcome testing? Be like, look, we've got something. It can't be destroyed. Bring it on. Bring on the testing. Bring on the tanks. Bring on. Take the image. If it's really indestructible, take it out of the wall. Like the rest of the wall is not destructible, right? Like you could cut it out of the wall and then like just strap it on the front of your tank and just mow down enemy after enemy with it, because you've now got an indestructible shield in front of you, right? I mean, why not? Or, well, maybe it loses its magic when you move it. Is there anything else on this page that could even remotely be testable? So if you're joining me, I'm looking at the blog with all these supposed miracles. So here's this medal. Let's see. The Lady of Fatima. I already went over that one before. Lady of Lourdes. Let's see, this ghetto near wherever the bleep it is. Marriott appeared 18 times to a 14-year-old peasant girl. Sure, she did. Do we have any? I mean, why didn't they? There's nothing but a story here, so that's not very convincing. Let's see. I'm going back up here. This medal, this miraculous medal here. So her mom, this gal's mom died. And then she kissed a statue of Mother Mary. And then some other stuff happened. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Okay, so this gal had a vision of Mother Mary. Woohoo. And then, okay, so here's this medal. Okay. And, wait. How is this medal a miracle at all? So the front side of the medal, Mother Mary stands on a globe, crushing a serpent with her feet. Rays shoot out from her hands. Not actual rays. It's just images on the medal, right? And then on the reverse side, a cross and bar represents Jesus, surmounts a large bowl and flames. It's the greatest miracles of those patience, forgiveness. So it's a symbol. It's not So those who wear it receive great graces, especially if they wear it around their neck. So here's a very vague claim. So this sounds like a good way to make money too. So yeah, if you buy this cheesy looking gold thing that's probably not even made out of actual gold, with the image of Mother Mary on one side and this cross and this M on the other side, good things will happen to you. Okay, so what kind of things? You'll receive great graces if you wear it around your neck. Like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean you're immune from harm? Does it mean that you're gonna get good stuff happen to you a lot more? Like if you roll dice during gambling, or is your luck better? Or gambling's bad. So is there any way to test this at all? No, of course not. So it's just it's a complete placebo effect is what that metal would be. And then of course let's just say that we're gonna say, okay, look, we'll be nice to it and say that um that you know you'll receive, somebody that's wearing it will receive great graces, whatever the bleep that's supposed to mean. Okay, so we have an identical one, same weight, same look, but it's made out of plastic, and it's coated with metal. The other one's the actual quote unquote one that was struck in a certain accordance to them, and they verify that it's the real metal that you wear or whatever, right? Okay, and then you send those two people out and you observe them and you record and you document what happens to them, and they will report back, guaranteed, both of them, if they're superstitious, that good things happen to them while wearing the metal. And the observers observing the people who would not know what it is they're supposed to be watching the people for, just that they're supposed to be documenting anything that happens to these people that seems maybe out of the ordinary or unusual or lucky or something of that nature. Those people guarantee would report back absolutely nothing but mundane things. And it would absolutely, if you tested it, it would completely and utterly vanish into nothingness. So yeah, and then the Lady of Guadalupe, which again, that's the image thing that's completely indestructible, even though it's only happened twice, which is not a statistical anomaly, even if I granted that both things actually happened, which I have no reason to. And that's it. Like 4 things of miracles that supposedly happened. Was it right here? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I was right. Yeah, 4. Okay, so that's it. That it's not impressive. And the good things happen in heaven, right? Yeah. Like you wear this metal and then you die. And that's another thing. Like, would wearing more of them bring more good fortune? Like, I mean, when it's so vague, when the claim is so vague, there's no way to test it in the first place. And then, of course, let's say that something terrible happened immediately afterwards to that person. They got killed just, let's say they fell down into a wood chipper. Who knows how the bleep the wood chipper was there, but let's just say that happened. They're dead, in a horrible way. And they die in agony. Like, well, they wound up in heaven, so that was the good thing that, that was going to happen to them, is that they are now in heaven with Mary chilling out. But what's funny to me about these Catholic miracles is, on the one side, the Catholics kind of sort of have a system to, quote, determine, quote, when a miracle has happened. But on the other side, when you examine their system, it actually isn't anything like the scientific system at all. It's not even remotely close to it. It's not anywhere near as meticulous. It doesn't ask as many questions. It doesn't seek to discover what the truth is. It's just like, oh yeah, you saw this thing happen? Okay, that's a miracle. Yeah, you totally saw the Mother Mary appear to you. Yeah, that's totally true. I buy it. Why not? Let's write that down and call it a miracle. Because then it's just another thing that we can say happened, and that just makes it like, hey, yeah, well, look at all the confirmed miracles we have. Oh, we sent out pastors who confirm these miracles. Well, they did send out pastors. The pastors were like, yeah, sure, the miracle totally happened. And then sometimes the pastors will be like, oh, no, the miracle didn't really happen. Like they'll say no sometimes. So, I guess that to their brains, like, makes it seem like it's that they're actually doing something, but they're not. So apologetics. My thoughts are about apologetics the same as they've been for years, which is that it's not to convince the atheist or the Christian, or I'm sorry, the skeptic. Sorry, it's not to convince the atheist or the skeptic. It is to convince the Christian that's having a hard time to believe that these things, happened. Don't believe in the tenets of Scientology. Okay. There's a distinction between tragedy and evil. Maybe. It depends on who you ask. Yeah, But yeah, I mean, there again, you could say that, okay, I wore this special magical medal that's totally for sure miraculous, and then, something evil happens to that person, whatever that is. And then you say, well, but, here's the one good thing that happened because of that evil. See, yes, that was a great evil that befell them, but all the other people around them were blessed because of blah, 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 blah. What do you know? And, it's just goalpost shifting. Or, of course, you could get away with, they didn't have enough faith, or you could move the goalposts 1,000 different ways. But this image thing, because the reason I was thinking about this, because it was brought up in my hangout that I had a while ago, that this image was like scientific. Well, here's the thing we could scientifically test. Yeah, but it hasn't been scientifically tested at all. 2 things supposedly happened to it. That is a statistical underwhelming nothing. That's an absolute nothing. It's like, I spilled water on my keyboard and it's fine. Wow, amazing. Yeah, because I shook it off and dried it off real fast. But it's still, it must be a miracle because I didn't pray to anything that the keyboard would be fine, And then later on, there was an explosion nearby. By near, I mean 1,000,000 miles away, but still there was an explosion and my keyboard was just fine. So it's a miracle. But the thing is, the reason I submit that apologetics is not to convince anybody is, except for those that already believe, is when you point out the inconsistencies, when you start to question it, when you start to say, look, okay, you said that this is a miracle. You even tell them, I want to believe you. I want this to be a miracle. Let's test it. Well, and it will be nothing but backpedaling, goalpost shifting until the end of days. And I'm reminded of this conversation I had with this guy that was Jewish, and he believed in this miracle-ish thing that supposedly is like a promise from God. So if you help orphans or widows, that you'll get blessings. Well, that's vague, of course. But I said, well, what do you mean by blessings? And he actually thought it was like money. And I'm like, okay, great. So I'll open up a charity devoted to orphans, and my brother will open a charity devoted to widows. And all I have to do is donate 1 penny to his charity. Then I should just miraculously gain at least 2 pennies. And if he donates back to me, then he should miraculously gain 2 pennies. And then we just throw money back and forth at each other and gain infinite money. Right? If it really worked that way, then that's what would happen. I'm like, are you gonna? So what? Maybe that's why Jews are in charge of everything. I don't know. And of course he was like, well, I don't know. I have to ask my rabbi about that. I'm like, yeah, sure, you do that. And the rabbi is going to quickly say, no, it doesn't really work like that because it actually is untestable. Beauty. Why is beauty in the universe? And that's another sort of apologetic trope is to wonder at the beauty of things. And I say, well, what about the ugly things? Why is that never mentioned? Like, why are not cockroaches brought up? Look at that cockroach. There's God in action. Look at that pile of dung. And look at the beetle that's crawling all over it. Look at those maggots. Boy, that is the glory of God, because it's gross. And you don't want gross imagery when you're trying to sell someone a product. You want beautiful imagery. You want flowers and perfumey imagery and smells and sights, and you want them to think of waterfalls and lovely still lakes and trees and the wind and flowers and fields of beautiful animals, deers, and you don't want them to think of of the dying child that's dying of starvation or whatever. Look at that person that's just dead on the road. There's the glory of God at work. Look at how those flies just congregate around that dead body and the buzzards pick away at its bones. That's beautifully glorious to yeah. So, it's silly to for me to always hear the positive things crowded out in regards to God and beauty. And it's like, yeah, well, you turn over the rock and you're bound to find some bugs. Is that also the glory of God? Well, yeah. Well, then why didn't you say about the bugs? Well, because that's, gross to people. Most people, not all, but so it's not going to sell the product. Graveyard shift. Greetings, greetings. Sit a while and listen. Dagger King. So, Our Lady of Guadalupe. It's just kind of an off the cuff thing I wanted to talk a little bit about on this page. And I didn't want to read the whole thing because it's so darn boring. I mean, supposedly somebody had a vision, and then supposedly they were told something, and then supposedly other things happened, and then supposedly this image just appeared on this place, supposedly, uh, and then the cloak is still preserved after all this time, which isn't that, you know. So I mean, like, yeah, because you were preserving it in a church, like you were taking care of it. Duh. It's not like, oh yeah, we left it in the tar. We let it sink to the bottom when we came back later. It was fine. It didn't, well, if it was in tar, it might actually be fine, or an amber or something. But it's like, it's not like you left it to the weather. You took care of the dang thing. So of course it was fine after however many years. So then they said about this painting that the surface is silky to the touch, and supposedly using infrared photography, experts determined that there was no brush strokes, as if the image appeared all at once. Well, that's an interesting little story there, isn't it? Where's that infrared photography? Oh, we don't have that. What's that you say? It's not even on the web page. Because see, there would be something to show me, like a picture. So show me the infrared photography. Experts determined who were these experts. How about a list of names? 2 at least, because that's experts. And then okay, there's no brush strokes. All right, there is ways to do that, but maybe back in those days doing that would have been really hard. But let's just say that again, there's not really anything magical about that. But of course, we can't verify that any of that is true. So Dr. Philip Catherine, finally we have a name, a biophysicist at the University of Florida, stated, such a technique would be an impossible accomplishment in human hands. Really? You don't say, but it's been done, so obviously it's not impossible. It often occurs in nature, however, and the coloring of bird feathers and butterfly scales, and on the electra of brightly colored beetles, but slowly backing away from the painting to a distance where the pigment surface and sculpting blend together, the overwhelming beauty of the olive-colored Madonna emerges as if by magic. Or it's a really good optical painting that somebody painted, And just because you, Dr. Philip, whoever the bleep you are, biophysicist, yeah, are you though? I mean, So what's your story? Okay, so here's more about him. Uh, can we find out more about him? Let's see. What's Wiki said? No, I can't. I can't find anything about him. So I mean, I don't even know if that's him. How about a link to Dr. Philip Caffion's PhD and proof that he has one, and so on and so. No, here's this guy that's supposed, experts determined the image had no animal and mineral elements. Which experts? This Dr. Philip guy? That guy? Who else? I mean, like, he might be one expert, although I'm not sure that a biophysicist would be the one to consult on a painting per se. But okay. But who? And then the synthetic coloring did not exist in 1531. Okay, great. Fine. Have we been allowed to study this since this, or is it just a one-time deal? That's usually the case with these reportings of miracle things or magical things that are discovered. You get one team that goes in one time, and then they say, well, no one else gets to look at it. You can see it, it's behind glass, but you can't, actually examine it. And then here's something that reminds me of something like the Quran has said, that you can't make your own version of the Quran or whatever the thing is that it says about that. So attempts have been made to replicate this thing, the Talmud, yet the images on duplicates fade over time, whereas the image on the original never fades. Oh, really? Do we have any proof that they haven't touched up the image? Like, how long over time? Like, how about I take a photo and put it on my computer? It won't fade if it's on the internet. I mean, if it's in cyberspace, the image will never fade as long as cyberspace exists, because the digital copy doesn't fade. Oops, I've made a copy. So now what? Is that debunked then? All right, so what's try to steal me? Let's see, dude. Manish. Non-religious. Okay. Non-religious physicist arguments for God, or whatever. I don't know what those arguments would be, but yeah, like I said, this was kind of a one-off thing. I just wanted to go over this particular miracle because it was on my mind, and it's not a miracle. It's nothing outlandish, nothing supernatural, nothing that couldn't be explained by people just upkeeping this and then claiming that it's still perfect and we haven't touched it. Of course they're going to say that. If they make money off the dang thing, heck, they could probably sell those gold coins at the same location. This is tourism here. But again, with the nitric acid. So let's do 100% on it, and let's see what happens. Are we going to be allowed to do that? No, of course not. Or can we blow up something like right next to the ding image? No, of course not. Can we do anything that would potentially hurt the image? No, they wouldn't let us, because it's sacred and religious and it's holy or whatever, and they wouldn't let anyone near it to do any sort of actual experiments with it. So, like every other so-called miraculous event that you'll hear about, there's just nothing to it, and I'm not impressed. David Dutt's argument is beauty is innate in the universe. I don't. Beauty is like I said, completely subjective. And what about the ugliness? I mean, what's that? What does that mean? Like, when is a black hole beautiful or ugly? I don't know. Who decides that? Is the center of the earth that's just basically molten lava, is that beautiful or ugly? I don't even have a way to determine that. I mean, there's certain things that I might consider beautiful and certain things I might consider ugly, but to say that it's innate in the universe. Okay, so you've explored the entire universe? Like, or do you mean just what you've observed so far? And so what about beauty? I mean, that might be true to you, but somebody else might not see any beauty at all, anywhere, period. So what, you know, where's the association causation there? Kromsky thinks morality is innate. Well, morality is developed because societies have developed over time, and the societies that work together prosper. Those that try to stand on their own do not prosper as well as those that work together. So rules or morals would formulate to ensure that the societies that work best together would flourish. So we would teach those morals and ethics to our children, and they would to theirs, and so on and so forth. So ethics and morals are just part of human culture that we've developed over time. There's nothing magical or mystical or spiritual about any of that. Ugly is a lack of beauty, whatever that means. That's one of those, evil is a lack of good sort of things. What does that even mean? No, ugly is synonymous, is the opposite of beauty, and it both are subjective. Somebody might see a beetle and think it's beautiful, and then another person might see a beetle and think it's ugly. And somebody else might see a beetle and think it's one of the musicians that played rock once upon a time. And again, even if it's everywhere or whatever, so what? What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. It just means we evolved to appreciate certain things. That doesn't mean anything. Anyway, so I've examined that. I got a honk. I've examined that miracle. That was really all I was trying to do today. I might do a broadcast later, but I gotta go. Bye, everybody.